Assassin's Creed, to be honest, is a fallen franchise. It's a relic of console gaming's twilight years in the 7th generation, wherein games were still made for consoles, but now distributed to the PC as well. Do you remember CD keys? Those years, my friend. Assassin's Creed itself is no doubt a landmark game, or at least gaming franchise in the modern gaming market. It practically invented the modern style of sit in a circle of dudes and hit your parry or counter button. I'll simply call this the bacon parry gameplay, because as all gamers knew in this time, bacon is epic and parries are also totally epic, am I right? Surely nothing bad could come of popularizing this fundamental design misstep. Also, full disclosure, this is my first ever Assassin's Creed game that I've played in full. I've played a little bit of 1 and 2, I think, or maybe it was just 2, but nothing else. Rogue is a game with a lot of problems and very few merits, but with great potential. The biggest errors are the format. Rogue, instead of being a rogue in narrative premise and game design, was designed to be roguish in name only. It is still an open world in the typical mid-2010s fashion. It's filled with meaningless, boring crap that I never did because, another full disclosure, I only did the story mode. You can't force me to do the side missions because they're fucking side missions. They're gay. It's filled with meaningless, boring crap, and it is used as a proxy for a loading screen. The melee combat is, of course, filled with epic bacon parries and deprives the player of a great deal of control. The bosses are absolutely atrocious. I don't think there's one actual formal boss fight in this game. The shooting and the naval combat have more potential, mostly because they're not terrible to begin with. Well, I guess that would mean they have less potential, but regardless, they are less terrible than the melee combat and the parkour, which I'll get to later. The naval combat is actually quite awesome, but it is neutered by their gay little progression system, which is defined by go collect random crap and then you're allowed to have fun. Granted, your ship isn't that weak at the beginning, but it is still stupid that the progression system exists at all. The problem is that after a certain point, your ship just owns everything it comes across, and other ships don't do enough damage to it. Gunboats are not that threatening for most of the game, really. I'll defend the shooting, though. The third-person shooting, not the naval combat shooting, because that's already good. But the third-person shooting, I think another approach to stealth combat that is very appreciated because, you know, it presents a new angle. The problem, though, is that you can't snipe. You're given this air rifle, which of course did not exist. It would have been a blowgun. I don't know if blowguns are in other games or something like that. They're given this air rifle, quote unquote, that has like barely any more range than the pistols. It's pretty lame. The flintlock pistols have no range, which is, to be fair, much like actual flintlock pistols. But they did have some range. They definitely were able to shoot a little bit farther than they can in this game. And it ought to be the same with the rifle. The rifle should give you, you know, a medium to long range option. The pistols are basically short range sort of pea shooters, unless you manage to get headshots, which is always welcome because you can insta-kill people. Even bosses, which is I actually think that's a good design choice, is to let you just insta-kill bosses if you shoot them in the head. As for the story, it's kind of epic, but not quite. It's cool that you get to betray the lame-ass assassins and help the Templars kill them, but let's be honest, what the hell is the difference between the Assassins and the Templars anyway? This game alone, because I haven't played the other one, so I don't know anything about it, it does not illustrate the difference between them. All it really does is demonstrate that they're both evil in equal measure, because the Assassins are willing to and do turn cities to rubble, they slaughter innocents, and they employ the help of libertine deists such as Benjamin Franklin, and enlist unrepentant gangsters and criminals to fill out their ranks. The Templars, on the other hand, although seemingly better, at least in this case, because I hear they're just bad in other games, they're just like evil dudes, they assist the British Empire, and even worse, they're hinted at orchestrating the French Revolution, which, you know, in some ways makes me wish I didn't betray the Order of Assassins, because at the end you help. It's implied that you started the French Revolution sometime after the events of the game, which is like, what the fuck? That's the worst thing you could possibly do. I'd rather go back to killing. Like, why can't I just kill British dudes? I mean, I guess that's what the third one's about, right? But I mean, in that case, you're helping the American Revolution, which, you know, as we can see, did not end up much better for us. Well, it ended up marginally better for us than the revolution for the French did, but, I mean, both of them were terrible ideas. Both of them are really just, they're really just weird cults, Gnostic cults, which seek power for strange, I don't know, just weird ends. Like, you don't, like, they never state what they're gonna do with the precursor technology. They don't really state, or at least I can't remember them stating it. Maybe it was a one-off line that I missed. But what are they gonna do with this? It really just seems like they're making sure the other side doesn't get it so that they can, you know, maintain their hegemony. You should just be able to kill them both. That would be sick. If Assassin's Creed fixed its shitty gameplay and did that, I'd play the next game. But they won't, because Ubisoft's going to go out of business pretty soon. The major problem with this game is the formatting, in that it's open world. It should not be open world. It should be level-based and entirely sequential. All the content should be related to maybe 10 major levels, with 4 of those being naval combat, and maybe 6 of them being on foot. You could divide it either way. You could do half and half, or you could have one naval campaign and one on foot campaign. I know they had like the quote naval campaign unquote in your captain's quarters, but I never touch that, because it's literally just hitting buttons on a map and waiting like an hour or 10 minutes or whatever, which is fucking stupid. Who wants to do that? That's not gameplay, that's a chore. The game, because of all the mixed ideas and the fact that it's open world, it's not sequential, it's not level to level, ends up being this horrific amalgam sludge of design ideas, which are not machined to join together properly. The stealth, the melee combat, and the naval combat are all basically songs being played at roughly the same time, but at different tempos, so they never harmonize. Why does this game have to be filled with 3 different micro games instead of just having a single holistic gameplay concept? Or why can't it just arrange those 3 types of games into a neat sequence that you just play through? It's stupid. It's very silly, and that's the biggest mark against the game. I mentioned it earlier, and I'll come back to it now. The parkour is not good. It's not terrible, but it's mediocre at best. It's not good. The problem with the movement in the game itself is that the movement isn't gamey enough. It's not designed around being parkour in a video game. It's designed with the premise that it's somehow supposed to be realistic. But how could it possibly be realistic when your character can make a 3-story jump onto a cobblestone road, from a house onto a cobblestone road and be perfectly fine. That's ridiculous. The premise should not be realism. It should be good gameplay design. Just give me control of the game. It's also because of the one-button design decision that parkour amounts to looking forward, looking towards the objective essentially, and holding shift, which is fucking lame. Okay, now he's dead, right? Nope. No, go up! Go up the fucking rock! And also, you're too slow. Your character moves just too slow. Because if you go from one direction to the opposite direction immediately, your character has to stop for like a quarter of a second to turn on his heel, and then you move in that other direction. But you can't exactly do that unless you actually instigate a turn of that degree. If you only go little by little, your character ends up running around in this circle, which is fucking stupid. I hate it. He runs in like an arc, unless you just snap to his rear immediately, which is, again, that's idiotic. The problem, though, with the movement in general being not fast enough is that the parkour is even slower than your horizontal movements, or at least your flat on the ground movements, your movement along a 2D plane. So whenever you parkour, you're slowing down, which in some cases, I mean, that would make sense, because you would think, oh, I have to run after this guy, and he's going this way. I could chase after him on foot because it would be faster, or I could parkour over some object, some group of houses or buildings or whatever, right? And sacrifice the time, but try to make it a shortcut and catch the guy. Except that's only used in one level where you kill I think her name is Hope, and that level was so bad for different reasons. It was actually good because of the forcing you to make that choice with parkour. What the fuck? Are you fucking kidding me, bro? Ah! That she can just fucking... Oh my gosh! Bro! I have to fucking deal with this fucking crap! The fucking gayest shit ever! Oh, I could rope dart her. I guess that might work. So, get up here. Oh, nope, it's taking forever, I guess. I am staying active! Fucking climbing shit! Is that not active enough? Okay, rope dart. Ah! Oh my gosh! Hurry the fuck up! Oh, she was in Weview with me? Nah, fuck that bitch. She was evil. She was evil, Shay. Again, it only happens once. Now, I don't object to parkour. I think as a real-life performance art, essentially, it's pretty sick. But in Assassin's Creed, it's a game. So the purpose of parkour in the game is to create a true freedom of movement. But the parkour doesn't free up your movement, it just restricts you. Because it makes you slower. So what's the fucking point? And in most cases, you're not timed when you go anywhere. So why would you ever need to do it? To take a shortcut? It's pointless. It's completely pointless. And furthermore, the problem with the parkour design on like a game coding level, I guess it would be, is that your character doesn't interact with the level itself. He interacts with pre-scripted parts of the level. He's not moving around in-game objects in a manner that is directed from the character, in which the character needs to move from one place to another and he moves across it in this manner. No, your character interacts with set pieces of the environment, which is fucking gay. It's like the opposite. It's supposed to create freedom, but it's literally the opposite of freedom because you're only interacting with what the developers want you to. So it's not real platforming. It is anti-platforming, which is terrible if you want to make part of your game about traversal. The melee combat is, as mentioned prior, all about the epic bacon parries that let you kill the bad guys, but also, for some reason, about, quote, breaking their guard, unquote, which I still fail to understand. I am breaking these bucks, but you can't just hit one break. You have to keep doing it. Now, I've tried to hit one break and then tap assassinate, but that doesn't always work. It works sometimes, but not always. So I don't know when there's no indication that it worked. So you just essentially spam break and then kill them. Or counter, and then you just kill whoever in whatever order, which is fucking lame. I'd rather, instead of you having a health bar and the enemies not having a health bar, it's just everything is an insta-kill. So you get one parry off, insta-kill. You get a break off, insta-kill. Right? But if the enemy gets a break on you, or maybe you can guard or dodge, right? And then that has some relevance to breaking or countering. Like, the enemy obviously couldn't counter your dodge, but it could maybe counter your... or it could break your guard, right? I don't know. I'm not the game designer. It's not my fucking problem. They made the shitty game, not me. But, I mean, there's just so much you could do here that isn't being done because of their lame adherence to old-fashioned, shitty, it's, the fucking bacon parry gameplay. It's dumb. The other problem with the levels is that there's no decision between murdering everybody and total stealth. Your mission objectives always determine what you have to do, which, if you have the option for both in the game, and you're not gonna use sequential level design, like arcade levels in sequence back-to-back, then you might as well just give the player the choice between killing everybody and using total stealth or being non-lethal, at least, in every level. But it's not, this isn't Metal Gear Solid 5. You don't get that choice. Sorry, bro. Other problem, though, is that in stealth levels, it's kind of silly that you have to have absolute stealth because you can just kill everybody really easily. Like, no matter what. There's never a situation in which the combat is genuinely difficult. You are rarely, I actually can't remember a single time it happened, encountering a situation in which two enemies would attack at the same time, where you have to use a movement to get out of the way. That will never happen. There's no need to move. So you end up with the stand in a circle of dudes and hit parry gameplay. The bacon parry gameplay, which kind of sucks, to be honest. The stealth I enjoyed in a demented, freakish kind of way because the stealth is strange. Your enemy doesn't seem to have any kind of sensory capabilities, so it's a sort of macroscopic, macro-positional stealth gameplay where you're moving around the level more so than you are moving around these characters' sense boxes. Like their vision or their hearing or anything like that. They can't really ever hear you. They can see you, but not all of them can see you from far away. Only the riflemen can, which is stupid. So, yeah, it's not good. You end up, because of this, paradoxically, deciding your path through the level, but not around enemies. They usually don't even care to look at you. What I do like, though, is that this ends up coinciding well with the shooting, because you can creep up on dudes and then shoot them in the back of the head, and your mission's done, just like that, which is awesome. I love that. It's actually a pretty good use of the existing design. The naval combat is actually pretty awesome. I would even go as far to say it rules, because you get full control of your ship, at least as far as control of a ship can be had, because you can't sail full speed into the wind. You can turn around and bug out from battle as you please. There's no stop on the heel effect like I mentioned with the regular movement. The ship just turns. Not only this, but the heading of your ship is relevant to gameplay because it's naval combat. So the bow has relatively less firepower than the sides of your ship because they have different cannons. And the cannons also have different uses, right? Because you can ram with the front of your ship too. So if you're in close range, you might as well just, turn towards them and use your cannons and then ram them. But if you're coming from far away, you can use the front guns once and then maybe try and broadside them, right? The puckle guns don't follow this rule, but they don't do significant enough damage to normal-sized ships for it to be a huge problem that they break it. The problem with them is that they do just obliterate the smaller gunboats, which were never threatening to begin with, which is, of course, its own problem. But they do, they wipe them out instantly, which is not great, because once you get them, gunboats just get owned instantly. Because of all this, you end up actually having to decide between broadsiding a ship, ramming it, shooting it with your front guns, shooting it with your puckle guns, the kind of shot you're using, because I think you can change it on the front gun. No, you can change it on the puckle guns, I think. And then on top of all this, you get mortars, which allow you to shoot at ships much further away and allows you to shoot at coastal fortifications. So you get this sort of the naval combat is very multi-dimensional, which I appreciate. The problem, though, is that it suffers from lack of difficulty. It's just not hard enough. And it also suffers from the upgrade system I mentioned earlier. So, in conclusion, is the game bad? No. But it's not good. I would not say it's worth playing. Maybe not. It's not worth 100%ing. You could play it and not lose anything. It's okay. There is a huge roadblock between this game and greatness, and it is not, strangely enough, the errors in each type of gameplay presented as much as it is the stupid insistence on the open world, and furthermore, the fucking animus crap. Do you want the game to come to a grinding halt right after you finish a part that was actually fun? No? Too bad, because back to the cubicle it is to do IT work in a game called Assassin's Creed. Why? Whose idea was that? I love it! It's so good! Even better, though, is the little walking sections, which, thankfully, you only have to do, 3 of those in the whole game. Thank fucking goodness. But what idiot decided that crap needs to be in the game? How could anyone possibly think that's a good idea? Worse, though, is that is the stuff which had more influence on current games. Not the naval combat, not the, possibly niche stealth gameplay, not the parkour, which could have been good but wasn't, not the melee combat, which could have been good but wasn't. No one iterated on this, no one improved it. Bye-bye. It's gone. And instead, the parts that you're forced to deal with, the parts that had the most influence on idiotic contemporary game designers, is forced walking sections, grinding the game to a halt, and, basically, and non-sequential shitty formatting. That's so fucking awesome. I love that. It's so great. Overall, the different types of gameplay on average would get a 4 or 5, but combined with all the dog shit you have to deal with, it comes down to maybe a 3. And that is my final verdict.